three scenarios rely on increased transit use and fairly substantially increased transit use. The Board of Directors of TriMet has received a briefing from staff at one of our previous briefing sessions, so we're up on that. And I'm blanking right now on the definition of the acronym, the CII, the Comprehensive
Community
Investment
Initiative.
Community Investment Initiative. Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate it. So that is something that Metro and the Port of Portland is looking at in ways to get more industrial lands ready for development and looking at different ways of bringing partners together and getting funding together for needed infrastructure. That seems to be in more early stages, and the one discussion we've had at Impact sounds like there's going to be a lot more discussion. So it's something to keep an eye on. It is something that could impact us as we need to provide transit services to developing industrial areas. And the final one, which actually we're getting a briefing on tonight, is the active transportation plan, which Metro is putting together, and that deals with the bike and pedestrian and transit services. I don't know as much about that because we're getting our first briefing tonight. I think significantly, given all this going on, TriMet staff Impact's last meeting 2 weeks ago did two different briefings for Impact. One was on our financial outlook and forecast and our West Side service improvement enhancement planning. That was given by Eric Hesse from our planning department. And then we also did a briefing on transit equity and demographics of the region, given by Janelle Bell, our Director of Transit Equity and Diversity. Both presentations were extremely well received. I was really pleased at the engagement of all of the members around the table. There were a lot of very good questions, a lot of discussion. I think particularly on some of the transit equity issues. And I think a lot of interest on part of Impact on working with TriMet as we address those issues and try to continue to provide quality services and enhance services. So I think that was very encouraging, and hopefully we can continue to coordinate well with Impact on those issues. So.
Good, thank you. Questions? Director Prosser, good.
Yeah, okay. I have a question about more of a comment on the second item, the Community Investment Initiative, infrastructure. Just an FYI, I just had a conversation with somebody the other day who's doing that kind of stuff, public and private money, doing infrastructure projects around the country. Mm-hmm. Chicago is already starting with that, so just an FYI.
Okay. Yeah, there's apparently been a lot of work, as you say, around the country, and they did bring in a former mayor of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to do a briefing, which unfortunately I was unable to attend. But so yeah, there's a lot of activity apparently going on.
Right. That's it.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. With that, then we're ready to move on to the consent agenda. What I see is that everybody on here, the consent agenda is the area, things that are on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and can be approved by the board in one blanket motion. I think there's only one, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I see something about a resolution directing all ordinances be read by title only. Is that something we need to do every meeting?
If we have an ordinance, which today we do.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, so we actually have two items. So there's that, plus the approval of the board meetings for May 22nd. And I will point out that I gave Ms. Runyon a couple minor editorials, non-substantive changes that were as a result of one of the comments I made. But other than that, I'm ready to move forward with that. So unless the board wants to remove an item from the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the minor changes I made on the minutes.
So moved with minor changes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, then, all those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, the motion is approved unanimously. All right, well, let's move on to our normal business meeting. Resolutions under item 3, Resolution 13-06-40, which is a resolution authorizing a contract with MSN Communications doing business as Mountain States Networking for the purchase of data center network equipment and configuration and installation services. No relation to Microsoft Network, right?
Correct,
right.
Mr. Board President. And if I might, just this very quickly, this is a contract for $625,000. It's based on the state purchase agreement fundamentally. And the importance here was that it was not just the equipment provider, but also the engineering services required to configure that equipment in the right way. And so, again, using the state purchase agreement, which allows us to take advantage of the state pricing and the volume of scale and satisfies public bidding requirements, we would recommend this contract. I'd also note that as we priced this, we actually got a discount from Cisco System, which is the primary supplier of that system, of an additional $235,000, which brought the price down to $625,000 overall. So we think this is a very favorable option for TriMet to enhance these communication services, which again are really more related to the configuration of the network overall and making sure that we have the proper redundancy related to response, emergency response, and contingencies of that sort. So with that, I'd be happy to not probably answer very many questions about this, but we do have the experts in the audience.
Good. Questions from the board? Yes, please.
So what would be the scale? I mean, as we look at data center network equipment, so this is more just self-edification than some massive question, but as we look at $625,000 for data equipment, what scale are we talking about? I mean, is this data equipment that would fill a small room? Is it data equipment? I mean, what does $600,000 buy you these days?
Probably a couple racks. If I'm looking for. Tim, sorry. Yeah, please.
It would be a room full.
A room full. That's good. I was just hundreds of. Okay, I was going to say what size room, but hundreds of servers. Like I said, I mean, it was really for self-edification, just to kind of know what that looks like, and as far as what we're purchasing and data network equipment. That was the only question I had.
All right. Other questions on this one? Dr. Bethel, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Well, then I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 13-06-40.
So moved.
Your motion?
Second.
And I think Travis seconded that, so we'll I think, is there any further discussion by the board on this item? All right, hearing none. All those then in favor of approving resolution, the motion to approve Resolution 13-06-040, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved unanimously. All right. Let's go on to Resolution 13-06-41, which is a resolution authorizing a contract with URS Corporation for engineering design services for the existing light rail track rehabilitation project. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, this was the resolution which you saw first time at your last board meeting, tabled, brought back at this point in time, after we've had further elaboration on the DBE scores associated with. And what I would just remind you is that this was a procurement under the Brooks Act, so it's qualifications based. That's a federal requirement related to procurement of engineering services. And then once we secure the highest ranked proposer, then we enter into negotiations on price. Based on the criteria in the RFP, again, the recommendation to you was that URS was the highest ranked proposer. The question that was brought forward last month was work plan and diversity, and how could a DBE score lower than a non-DBE on that category. But I think what's important to note is that that's two categories together, the work plan overall and DBE or a diversity as a separate criteria. So they're sort of merged together in that one score. And so a large part of this was the work plan, which is really the technical qualification side of this, as well as then second, the diversity question, and merged together in one category. And we do that, frankly, to give us some flexibility related to the scoring mechanisms. We did review this with Dr. Bethel, and he may have some comments related to that, since again, as you recall, the major question here was raised by Dr. Bethel earlier. I would note that URS has an excellent record related to disadvantaged business and is currently in current work with us at levels of about 22% participation. We're very pleased with their performance overall. The reason for this contract, again, just to step back for a moment, is to assist us with the rehabilitation work necessary for the state of good repair work that will that is necessary to really do the improvements that were funded in the fiscal year 14 budget, which will primarily reliability improvements on the existing blue line. So with that, I pose for any questions, and perhaps Dr. Bethel would like to offer some comments as well.
Right. Maybe we'll go right to Dr. Bethel first here. Director Bethel, I want to make sure that you had an opportunity to work with the staff and get your questions answered. Are you comfortable with moving forward on this agenda item? And if you have any other comments and questions, we'd love to hear those.
Yes, I did have an opportunity to meet with the staff at TriMet, and I appreciate and thank them for doing that and bringing the information. It was very helpful to understand the work plan and diversity, how it is blended together and then used in the procedures. Also, there was a small little document that they gave me that I believe I asked them to provide to the board, and at some point further that they would give a small presentation to the board as to how they use this piece of work plan and diversity when they're doing these procedures for contracts. With that, I give my full support to this contract.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bethel. Any other questions from the board? Yes.
Very quickly, this will be an ongoing maintenance situation?
This is not ongoing.
Not necessarily with this firm, but, you know, that is, you know, O&M.
Right, so these are major rehabilitation projects as opposed to maintenance. So an example, the type of project that would be funded by this is the replacement of the switches along Holiday Street at 9th, where right now, if you look at it, you can tell it's in disrepair. So this is a major effort that will probably shut down the rail line for a period of time over a weekend, come in, excavate, place new switches, and go out. So it's very specialized work. It's not really maintenance work. It's what I call serious rehabilitation work.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Seeing no other questions then, and again, I'm very pleased that we took the time to sit down with Dr. Bethel and go over his concerns and questions. So with that then, is there a motion to approve Resolution 13-06-41?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second.
Beating him to
I think Dr. Bethel might have beat you on that. I'm not sure.
He did.
All right, good. So, any further discussion or questions on this resolution? All right, then. Then all those, I'm going to call for the vote then. All of those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-06-41, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, then the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. So let's move on then to Resolution 13-06-42, which is about the Board of Directors acting in its capacity as a TriMet Contract Review Board is exempting from a competitive bidding requirement a contract for the construction management general contractor known as the CMGC services for the Sunset Transit Center Platform Paving Reconstruction Project. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, we have failing pavers at the Sunset Transit Center, and we need to fix those, and those were included in the capital improvement project list that was approved in the fiscal year 14 budget. Obviously, the Sunset Transit Center is one of our busiest passenger locations, so doing this kind of work in that busy a location is going to take an enormous amount of planning to make sure that we minimize the impact to our customers and to our overall operations. For that reason, we have requested that we actually approach this work with our CMGC style contracting. And the great advantage to that for us is that we can bring the designer and the contractor together to look at the design, make sure the design is easily constructible and constructible in phases in a way that can preserve the operations capacity, maximize the operations capacity of the platforms and minimize the disruption to our customers over time. And again, it's that collaboration between the contractor and the designer and our staff that is really essential to make sure that those impacts are really minimized. As you are aware from your past history, as we make these exceptions, this is not an exception to a competitive process. It simply means the contractor won't be selected by low bid alone. So based on that, we have gone through the findings which are attached to your resolution, which define why we believe that this is justified. There's been a public hearing associated, looking for any comments associated with this change from the low bid process. We had no people attending and no comments related to that from that public hearing. So with that, I would recommend approval or certainly respond to any questions that you might have on this.
Okay. Some questions from the board? Dr. Bethel, are you have any questions on this item?
No questions on that item.
Okay. I guess I just have one. It's kind of similar to Director Stovall's comment about the size of the room. I was just looking at kind of the size of the order of magnitude of this project. Is this 100,000, a million, 10 million?
It was about 300,000.
Okay, all right, good. That's what I need to know. Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Any other questions?
Yeah, has the firm been picked? Has the firm been picked?
No.
Okay.
So what this would do is authorize the alternative process of advertising for the CMGC contract. And then we would come back to the board with that selection at that time.
Okay.
Good.
Actually,
Okay.
we would come back if it meets the board threshold for approval. If it's under the threshold, then that would be done administratively. Just to know.
All right. Well, with that then, are we ready to have a motion on the table to approve Resolution 13-06-42? If so, I'd entertain that motion.
So move.
Your motion.
Second.
I hear a second. I'm not sure who it was. You got that, Ms. Runyon? All right, all right. So is there any further discussion on this item? All right, then. Well, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-06-42, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. All right, let's move on to Resolution in 13-06-43, which is authorizing a modification to contract with Pivot Architecture, PC, for architectural and engineering services and TriMet facilities.
Yes,
General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, you might recall that some time ago, in August of 2011, you approved a contract for Pivot Architecture to deal with the initial scope of architectural services required for the dominoed move of office spaces related to the Portland-Milwaukee project. And fundamental core, this is a remodeling of the Center Street office building, but in order to accomplish that, there was also the selection and rehab and tenant improvements associated with the Harrison Street office building, as well as other projects. We also have included a number of other items as that work has continued. Pivot has done an excellent job in all of their work and has been very cost effective in all their work. But since the initial contract, there are a number of changes, and let me sort of go through them very quickly. One is that we are reviewing the need for a new building for facilities management and maintenance of way. The original thought was that we would rehabilitate one of the older buildings that we had acquired for the right-of-way, the Portland-Milwaukee project, for that purpose. As that building was acquired and the inspections were done, we found the foundations and indeed some of the structures was inadequate to remodel, so not cost-effective to remodel, so that meant we had to change to a new building. We have also found that as we dug into, as sort of like I'm doing sometimes with remodeling projects, you dig in behind the walls of the Center Street building and found much more that needed to be done, particularly windows and what they call the storefront of the building was way beyond its normal life and needed to be fully upgraded. And there are some other smaller items associated with the Center Street building. And given that the building is essentially empty now, this is the time to do it in a most cost-effective way. And that also included the remodeling of the first floor, which is the report area for the bus operators. And in that regard, we've actually wanted to make sure that that is a high-quality area, as high quality as everywhere else in the building, and have actually done some very interesting work in terms of programming that space to be more effective. And that, again, would be the first floor of the space. In order to accommodate that remodel, we had to move the operations staff into modular buildings at Center Street, and that's just going on now. And that allows that space to be then remodeled in the most effective way and in the quickest way possible. And then as we continued our negotiations with Union Pacific on right-of-way, we were able to negotiate a new space adjacent to the Center Street building for a surface parking lot, which is something that we really needed in associated with serving our operators. We did that by actually transferring a trade for some other property that we had acquired along the alignment that was useful to Union Pacific. So Pivot was asked to design that additional space as well. And then there's a small item associated with low voltage audiovisual improvements to these various facilities over time. Add all that together, total requested modification for the contract is $1.822 million. Again, these are all for the most part, project funded. If there are general fund components of this, which would be relatively small, then obviously the general fund would pay that proportion of the share as well. All funds are budgeted at this time in either the general fund budget or primarily in the project budget. I would note that Pivot is currently achieving 22% DBE participation, so we believe that's obviously very good for the kinds of professional services they're providing, and I would say the performance has been excellent to date. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or we have the experts in the staff who can.
I just have a question. So to see if I understand this correctly, so the Center Street building is obviously not safe, not up to code. So we are going to build a new building? No,
not the Center Street building. But you're right, the Center Street building is in need of extra repairs, and so that's part of paying for that.
Okay.
But the other building was a replacement for the maintenance of way building, which is along 17th Avenue and is now consumed by the right-of-way. And our idea was to move that into another rehabilitated building that we had acquired, which is nearer to about 8th and Division in that general vicinity. And as we looked at that building with more detail, we found that it was not something that was cost-effective to remodel.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Another question? Yes.
Yeah. This is my first time, and if I had been here before, I would have asked this question. In these contracts for remodel, et cetera, new buildings, do you have energy efficiency standards or goals?
Yes. So, for example, for the Center Street building, that's one of the major reasons. For example, while we looked at the storefront, there was both a lot of leaky windows and a lot of problems in terms of not current insulation, and so the only way to really begin to deal with that was to replace the whole storefront. And similarly, all the other buildings, we generally are aiming at a LEED certification, not a platinum, but silver or gold, and we're in that general aim for energy efficiency.
Thank you.
Yes, please. I thought you might have some questions.
Just a few. In regards to the size of this increase, I mean, we go from 4.2 million up to over 6. I mean, that's close to a 50% increase in the original contract. That's concerning whenever we see something like that. I understand the perspective of some of the things as you get behind the walls of things. I clearly understand what comes up in that, just doing personal projects and managing other commercial build outs. But that's a significant increase, again, close to 50%. And as I understand it, this is just the architectural and engineering component of it. Then we have whatever items that we're actually developing the architecture for or the engineering for that are going to have cost impacts. So as I see the facilities and management and maintenance of Way building, I mean, that's constructing an entire building that I assume that we didn't have previously planned for. So there's going to be costs associated with that somewhere in the budget. So we see a $1.8 million increase here. I am wondering if we've got any idea of what the impact that's going to be in regards to our total budget for, I was looking at Dan, actually, I was asking him the question specifically, what the total budget looks like as we look at the total budget, the project for the Portland-Milwaukee line, because again, this is a significant increase. In the big scheme of things, 1.8 million isn't a significant piece of the budget. But as you think about what this impacts.
Board Member Stovall, you're correct. It is a 42% increase, but it's not a change to the original work. It is additional work. And so I want to make that distinction, as people sometimes become concerned if the original work cost more than was anticipated. That is not the case here. Furthermore, the original work we did award did not consume our entire budget for this the combined undertaking we call Moving Together. And so even with this increase and with our current estimates of the work that will be required that flows from this, we are still within overall the Moving Together budget.
So if we were to just bring in kind of an example, I mean, we're building a house, and we get to the point that we're almost done, and we realize we're pregnant. Not you and I, but if if I was married and we feel like we were pregnant and we need to add another addition to the house, at that point in time, we've recognized something partway through the project, and so we're going to build a whole new addition to the home. In a sense, we've made a decision to add to the original project because something has come up along the way that we now need to address. It still can be a little bit concerning, because essentially, as you see the size of this increase and then the subsequent size of the increase in the overall budget, where I get more comfortable, though, is hearing you say that ultimately we're not going to get outside of what our target budget is for the total project.
That's correct. I mean, you being a wise fellow, you and your spouse would have planned for your pregnancy and would have had some contingencies in your budget to cover that addition if and when it was needed.
Surprises happen.
Are you done?
I'm done.
While you're there, I think what this points out, Travis and I are probably thinking the same way here. So we have the piece for the design, but I think this, if in terms of transparency, it may have been best to outline what the difference in the capital, the actual construction costs are, and have it stated in the agenda item so we understood it's there and it's within the project budget, because I think that's good for people to see. So maybe in the future we do this, and we're making some changes in actual things that we're going to be providing, that we have that total picture in the agenda item. So good question, good one. So
well, in with that, I don't know if I'm comfortable moving forward with this piece without kind of an idea of what that overall construction impact is going to be. I mean, because essentially, if you approve the architectural engineering, you're kind of tangentially approving the increase in the overall budget, unless those items are already in and we've already approved those at some point along the way. But I'm assuming if not, those are going to be coming to us as changes to the overall project in the near future.
Only if they're over the amount that was already authorized for those contracts. So we have an amount set
Correct.
Aside for this new building, whether it is a building, a completely new building, or a remodel of an existing building. There is a budget for that.
Correct.
Now, as the design proceeds, we'll have estimates, and we'll know whether we are in fact designing to our budget or not. If we're not, then we will come back and have the conversation about whether we should go a different route or make some further adjustments to the programming.
And at this point in time, do we have any estimation as the impact?
No, because we don't have a design for the new building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you got to do some design to get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the question is right on, and I think it's one we need to kind of address as we look at agenda items like this. So the more information, the better is all I think we're saying here. I think I'm comfortable moving forward to getting this work done, because we got a project we need to get done, and we need to have a home for these functions as well as the individuals. So I think I'm comfortable moving forward. What I think the board is saying, maybe it is time to come back in the next update on the light rail project, and just this could be a piece of that with the best information you have to date. And what I'm hearing you say today is that you believe it is within the budget for the entire package that you'd planned before. So we shouldn't be worried about it going over the cost that we have at this time.
Once we have some more design work done and a programming plan for a new building rather than a remodel, we'll be able to answer that.
Okay. So I'm looking to the board. Is the board comfortable? If you're comfortable, I'd like to entertain a motion then to approve resolution 13-06-43, and we can have some further discussion if you want. Is there a motion then to approve this resolution?
I just have a question.
Sure.
So is there a way to add that future contracts or something like this, that we will get more in-depth information in terms of its impact?
I think that was my intent, and I think the staff is nodding their head.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll operate on that note, yeah.
Okay, great.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion with the intention next time we get more information.
All right.
Moving forward.
Second.
I hear a second on that. All right. So further discussion of the issue?
I agree with the motion and the idea that we try and have the additional information, because it's sometimes difficult to know what that impact's going to be without this component of it done, but you can certainly sense our concern.
Yeah. So the best information available at any time. Dr. Bethel, did you have any questions?
I'm just trying to make sure of what the motion is on this particular resolution now. Is it to approve the resolution, or did I hear someone add an addendum to it?
So what you heard is the approval of the resolution, but it's also to make clear that the resolution is asking for more information on future agenda items similar to this, so that we have the total costs and can talk about those when we're making our decision.
Okay.
All right? Have I got the motion correctly here? All right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Okay, then all of those in favor of the resolution of resolution 13-06-43 with the clarity that we want to see some more information on both the design and capital and future agenda items. All right, is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, then the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you all. All right, two more to go on resolutions. Resolution 13-06-44, which is authorizing a modification to an interagency, intergovernmental agreement with the City of Portland for endangered fish habitat enhancement in the South Waterfront Central District Greenway. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, sometimes our business goes into other areas than you would normally think a public transit agency might get into. But in this regard, obviously, this has to do with the notion that we are building a bridge across the Willamette River for the Portland-Milwaukee project. And as part of the permits required for that bridge was mitigation, particularly for shallow water habitat for the endangered species, primarily that inhabit the Willamette River. It was very fortuitous to us that, frankly, the City of Portland, particularly the Parks Bureau, was developing a similar project in the vicinity of the South Waterfront area, right actually in front of where the residential towers are now, that would actually develop some shallow water habitat. And we were able to contribute to that to both facilitate our required mitigation as well as to improve that particular stretch of the river. That was agreed to at a fixed price by a previous resolution approved by the board. That construction began last year, but was impeded by a number of factors that have driven up the price of that overall work. And so that had to do with the fact that the water levels last year were very high, particularly during the early season, so that the access to the river was not available to the contractor. So not enough work was able to be done last year to complete the work, so the stretch over into a whole new season starting this year. There was associated with that a price increase, of course, associated with that. So we have agreed to recommend to you that we modify our share to by an increased amount of $420,000. That would mean a total of $1,720,000 total for this overall project. Again, this is both helping with the mitigation requirements for the Willamette River Bridge, and I would also note that in addition to constructing those improvements, this also provides for the maintenance of those improvements as required by the permits over a period of time. While the increase is not desirable, we still think this is a very cost-effective and very good project for us to participate in, and a very cost-effective way for us to meet our mitigation requirements associated with the Willamette River Bridge. Dave Unsworth and others in the staff have been very involved in this, and if there are specific questions, we certainly are here to answer, but recommend your approval.
All right.
Question. So
please.
Neil, when you said our portion, then city being the other partner, their portion as well, or are there other
Right.
partners involved?
I believe it's just the city.
Okay.
And there may have been other fees that went into that from other developments over along the river. I suspect that there were, but
guess,
the
yeah.
primary holder of those is the city.
Okay.
Other questions?
Just an observation.
Yes.
Years ago, I was involved in this conversation, not as a planner or a board member, but somewhere else. But so I know that was a big thing when that development was cited, and having a greenway, restoration, being federal and state mandates. So I'm very well aware of it.
Other questions or comments? I guess I would just point out that major transformation in the South Waterfront as a result of the restoration and remediation, environmental remediation that's been done down there. I don't know what the total price tag is between the private property owners and the public, but I suspect it's approaching $10 million. And I know Dave, maybe, where's Dave? Is that a reasonable number? Yeah, probably about $10 million worth of remediation down there. It has changed the landscape considerably, but hopefully it's going to allow that area to function much better for fish and wildlife, and will be an asset for the community. And I think we knew that this was undefined, at least I knew this was undefined as we move forward, and that we would be probably up to the very end making changes to address some of the issues we find in the field. So this doesn't surprise me. And I mean, not that I welcome increasing our participation, but again, along with our discussion we had on a previous agenda, and what I'm reading is that this is covered within the project funds and will be dealt with if need be through the contingency for the project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, any further comments or questions? Okay, with that then, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 13-06-44.
So-
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion?
Approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there further discussion then on this agenda item? Dr. Bethel, you okay?
I'm okay.
All right.
Vote.
Let's then, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion to approve resolution 13-06-44, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Okay, let's move on to the last resolution, which is resolution 13-06-45, which is authorizing a contract with, I'm not sure, a rink Incorporated for central control system software upgrades for the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, many of you have visited our Ruby Junction Control Center and have seen those overview displays that demonstrate the connections between the train locations, the substations, the ticket vending machines, and other elements of the overall network. The software that runs those overview displays and helps our dispatch system respond to issues is called Central Control Software, and that was actually developed for us by R Inc. In 2004 for the Interstate Light Rail project. And then we have since done small additions for the Green Line and other modifications to the system. As we look at the addition of the Portland-Milwaukee project, obviously another software upgrade is required. As we did this, we actually looked to see if this would be a time that it would be useful to start over or to continue to modify the existing software. And on our view, it became very clear that it was a much more cost-effective and much lower risk to modify the existing software. And so in that direction, we actually priced the replacement at about a $5.5 million cost. This modification to do the improvement and is, I'm looking for the number, it didn't, $1.274 million. So I would just note that overall we have been very satisfied with the services from AirLink as we've developed this. Again, it's we believe, a lower risk to modify the existing software and also much more cost effective to do that over time. And again, this is provided for by the project budget, and it also includes the modifications that will be necessary to move the central control to the Center Street building, much more central to the building. And again, there'll be a larger display and a larger room and other accoutrements associated with that. And all of that is wrapped into not the physical facility, but the software associated with developing this, running the system is included in this overall price. So with that, I recommend approval, and we certainly have people here who can answer questions about the procurement as well.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Questions from the board?
Two quick ones.
Okay, please.
In regards to the first question is in regards to just kind of the capabilities of the system. I mean, are they comparable? I mean, you said that we're mostly satisfied with what's going on, but are the features comparable to what we can get, you know, on the market today? So that's going to be kind of the determination of moving forward with this. And are there yearly costs? A lot of times there's yearly not upgrade costs, but maintenance costs to software. Just wondering if those two things could be identified.
I would just note on the capability side that there is a comparative. Compares to what we would get on the open market, and actually to the extent that this is sort of, if you will, customized for us, we can actually look for some additions for our own purposes and sort of add some of those bells and whistles as we see fit. I'll have to look for some reinforcement, John, on the annual costs.
Please come on. Please come on up. Why don't you come on up here and introduce
John
yourself.
Swisek, who's one of our ACE systems engineers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the annual costs, we usually do get a service agreement that takes care of maintenance to a degree. We do have a systems engineer whose responsibility it is to maintain the system on a day-to-day basis, but when that person needs assistance from AirLink, they're a phone call away.
And our costs with our Inc. would be very similar to what their competitors offer?
Yes, yes. There's about a half dozen different competitors in this field: Siemens, Alcatel, Alstom, and a few others. And they all have the same sort of arrangement. They have a call center that you can call in.
Correct.
And there is a noticeable cost for that service.
All right.
That was it for you? All right. Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah, on the page, unpaged. There's a paragraph here that says that, one sentence says that TriMet has been working with AirLink to develop opportunities for DBE's participation on this contract. Has that been going on?
Yes, it has. In the original procurement, what we did was the DBE work went to installers of hardware and testing facilities that we used to compare the system against the outside plant. And we think that there may be an opportunity in that, in the testing end of it, but that has yet to be resolved. We're not buying any hardware from ARINC on this go-around, so that opportunity is not there.
Okay. Yep, please.
Thank you.
Is the software that ARINC is developing going to be solely for TriMet's use, or will ARINC also turn around and market this to other customers?
You can't exactly say it's an off-the-shelf product, but it is a standard offering that the company has. They have marketed this to Seattle, Denver, a number of properties on the East Coast. And it's a product that it evolves over time.
Okay, so it's not being developed specifically for us?
No, it's not.
That make you feel better?
Well, I was going to ask if it was for us and they were going to market, do we get any
Okay.
cut on that? So,
Thought you're more worried about being a guinea pig
No.
on this one. That's good. Other questions? I guess what I'm seeing here then, for the first system, their first software was installed in 2002.
Right.
And so here we are in 2013, so we've got a 10 or 11 year life of the software. Is that what you're anticipating for the future here too?
Yes, a lot of that life is based on the underlying systems, the operating system that lies under it. Windows XP, for example, supports part of the system, and it's going to end of life here. I think it's the end of this year. So we have to be thinking about things like that. You won't be able to get support from Microsoft for that part of it.
Okay, and so this solves that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, that's good. All right, excellent. Dr. Bethel, any questions from your end?
No questions.
All right. Well then, if we're ready, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 13-06-45. Do I hear a motion? I hear a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this one? All right then. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-06-45, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those not in favor or will abstain? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. All right, with that, we'll move on then to the last business item that's on our agenda, is ordinance number 329, which is adopting service changes and amending TriMet Code Chapter 22, and this is a second reading and a public hearing.
Right, followed by the roll call vote today.
Thank you very much. So, General Counsel Tran, are you providing us a staff report on this?
Actually, I'm going to just read the
All right.
title at this
All
point.
right. You think you're going to get away with that only?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so ordinance number 329, an ordinance of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, adopting service changes and amending TriMet Code Chapter 22. So if you'll recall, this is service changes, and I'm not sure you're going to go ahead and...
Yeah, if you might.
Go ahead, Mr. General, yes.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, just a very short recap of this. You might recall that the budget you approved in May includes $2.1 million for service improvements or fixes on the bus system. Included in that list of improvements was line 47, 48, and 94. For those lines, the service change affects more than 25% of the overall service for that line, and so your approval is needed when we hit that threshold. Tom Mills from our planning staff walked through the specifics of those changes, and primarily the major issue is these are service enhancements and improvements for line 48 and for the 94, where frequencies and other things are improving. For line 47, it also includes the routing changes, which obviously when we have routing changes, there are some people who are benefited and some who are not. We've also provided to you a Title VI an equity analysis of the changes, and that was provided. And I would also note that we've done quite a bit of community outreach, including riding the buses and surveying the riders that were affected, and you have the results of that survey as well. We've also conducted a public hearing separately in the vicinity of the changes. And so with that, I would recommend approval of the ordinance, and that concludes our very